Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and this is the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast, the music podcast on where I interview singers and musicians from genres of black music: gospel, jazz, blues, old school classic soul, old school hip hop, today's hip hop and R&B, Caribbean, Latin, Afrobeat, Afro-Latina, blue-eyed soul, disco, go-go, line dances, and the Lost 45s. So come with me as I take you on to a trip to the destination genre of black music right now on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Legal Shield is a proud sponsor of the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Have you been involved in any types of accidents? Have you been a victim of identity theft? Have you been a victim of a computer fraud scam? Have you been in disputes with your tenants or landlords? If your loved one dies and they didn't write up a will for you or for your family, or you and your spouse are filing for divorce, or if you need help by opening up your small business, give Legal Shield a try. Visit their website at LegalShield.com and tell them you heard it here on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Do it today. You'll be glad you did. Welcome to the season finale of the Black Soul Music Experience. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and this is part 3. We're in the final chapter of our 3-part season finale on tributes, honoring our favorite singers and musicians that passed away during the 2025-2026 season. Now, before we start doing our episode, we just have some breaking news that just came in to me. Record executive Clive Davis had passed away on June 22nd. Now, Clive Davis was a record executive at CBS Records, which takes care of Columbia and Epic Records. And then by 1970, he met with Kenneth Gamble and Leon Huff and to bring in Philadelphia International Records. Now, Clive Davis is known for discovering so many artists when he was at CBS Records. He had discovered Barbra Streisand, Bruce Springsteen. Also, he discovered Sly and the Family Stone. I mentioned Kenneth Gamble and Leon Huff, where they found their new label called Philadelphia International Records that had the OJs, Howard Melvin and the Blue Notes, Teddy Pendergrass, Billy Paul, Bunny Sigler, The 3 Degrees, Lou Rawls, the Jones Girls, Patti LaBelle, and their own house band, MFSB. And after he left CBS Records because of mismanaging money and he was under investigation, so he left CBS Records. He later became the CEO and president of Bell Records, which had The Fifth Dimension and many other artists. As you know, Bell Records was a division of Columbia Pictures Industries. And by the fall of 1973, early 1974, he changed the name to Arista Records, where he had so many discoveries, including Barry Manilow, Melissa Manchester. He resurrected artists that includes Aretha Franklin and Dionne Warwick. Also, he had some new artists overseas, which includes the Thompson Twins and some country musicians, including Alan Jackson. He also had some other artists that joined the Arista family, which includes LA and Babyface. They formed a record label called La Face Records, which had Damian Dane, TLC, Usher, and Tony Braxton and Pink. And also in the early 90s, Rowdy Records have joined the Arista family, which had Monica. So there you have it, folks. Mr. Clive Davis, the record executive. And let's not leave out J Records. He left Arista Records. He sold that to the BMG Entertainment family. And by 2000, he formed and founded J Records. That's the letter J, where you had Alicia Keys. You also had Monica and so many other artists that he had discovered. So rest in peace to record executive Clive Davis, who was the president at CBS Records, later founded Arista Records. He took over Bell Records, which changed his name to Arista Records, and he later founded J Records. So rest in peace to record executive Mr. Clive Davis at the age of 94. So, which brings you as we continue with tributes honoring our singers and musicians that have passed away during the 2025-2026 season. And we continue with Dexter Wanzel. Now, Dexter Wanzel was born on August 22nd, 1950, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was a songwriter, musician, composer, conductor, arranger, and producer who does genres of music: soul, jazz, and fusion jazz. He began as an errand boy backstage at the Uptown Theater in Philadelphia from 1959 to 1963. He met many great artists who encouraged him to pursue music. During high school, he and his friend Stanley Clark performed in bands to get together and perform together. In 1970, after being discharged from the U.S. Army, Dexter joined the ranks of synthesicists like Wendy Carlos and Dick Hyman when he began programming the EMS VCS 3 Putney and the ARP 2600 for sessions at Sigma Sound Studios, both credited and uncredited. From the early to mid 1970s, Dexter also played keyboards for groups such as Instant Funk, Yellow Sunshine, and MFSB. After signing with Philadelphia International Records as in-house songwriter, producer, and arranger, he established a songwriting relationship with lyricist Cynthia Biggs. He also collaborated with other writers such as Bunny Sigler, T Life, Vinnie Barrett, and Kenneth Gamble. Dexter produced, wrote, and arranged and played keyboards and synthesized hits for artists at Philadelphia International Records, as well as numerous other labels. In 1977, he produced the Grammy winning album Unmistakably Lou by the late Lou Rawls. Dexter Wanzel's music has been used as samples in the world of hip hop. His 1975 theme from the Planet's drum beat intro has been used by The Lox, Kanye West, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, Rick Ross, J. Cole, Eric B. and Rakim, Little Kim, Ice-T, and Ice Cube. In 1979, as conductor for MFSB, Dexter was the music director and conductor for the historic show at the White House commemorating the very first Black Music Month celebration in 1978. From 1978 to 1980, he was the A&R director for Philadelphia International Records, where he oversaw many album releases by the label's artists, including MFSB's Mysteries of the World and the Stylistics' Hurry Up This Way Again under the direction of Gamble and Huff. Dexter Wanzel's LPs includes Life on Mars, which was at number 44 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The World is Coming 2, which was at number 168 on Billboard's Top 200 albums and number 46 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. Jazz Voyager, which went to number 139 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 37 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. And Time is Slipping Away, which went to number 58 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. His singles includes Life on Mars, which went to number 10 on Billboard's Disco Singles charts and number 91 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. Disco Lights went to number 25 on Billboard's Disco Singles charts. Solutions went to number 87 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. Also, he had singles including It's Been Cool, which went to number 91 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts, and The Sweetest Pain, which went to number 40 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. As a producer, Dexter Wansel took care of artists on the Philadelphia International Records label, which includes the Jacksons, Lou Rawls, Teddy Pendergrass, Patti LaBelle, MFSB, Phyllis Hyman, the Jones Girls, and Dee Dee Sharp Gamble. Dexter Wansel was the father of a Grammy nominated producer and songwriter, Pop Wansel. Dexter's little sister, Miss Terry Woods, was an author. Dexter Wansel died on May 31st, 2026. He was 75 years old. The next artist who's a musician, his name is Ronald LaPreed. He was a bassist and co-founder of the Commodores. The group was formed back in 1972, and they were known back then as the Jays. It had Lionel Richie, Walter Orange, Thomas McClary, William King, and Milan Williams, and yes, Ronald LaPreed. Ronald was a bassist who played on all of the hits from the Commodores. Ronald left the group in 1986 after the group's LP Night Shift. Ronald had moved to New Zealand and had lived in the city of Auckland. Ronald LaPreed died on May 30th, 2026, and he was 75 years old. Now, we have some other artists that were not black, but they've crossed over to some black radio as well. So we want to give you a little blue-eyed soul in the mix. So I grew up with some other artists that were not black, but they were influenced by black music. So we want to give a shout out to some of the other artists that I have on there as well. I'm sure you know our native New Yorker representing Brooklyn, New York, and his name is Neil Sedaka. He was born on March 13th, 1939, to parents of Lebanese, Polish, and Russian descent. He grew up in the Brighton Beach section, and he lived across the street from Neil Diamond, and he once dated Carole King. Neil demonstrated musical aptitude in his second grade choral class, and when his teacher sent a note home suggesting he take up piano lessons, his mother took work at a part-time job at Abraham and Strauss, or A&S department store, for 6 months to pay for a second-hand upright piano. In 1947, he auditioned for a piano scholarship to the Juilliard School of Music Preparatory Division for Children, and he attended on Saturdays. His mother wanted him to become a classical pianist like Van Kilborn, but later Neil was discovering pop music. His mother accepted his blessings when he received a 5-figure royalty check for his hit Calendar Girl in 1961. When Neil was 13, he introduced the 16-year-old named Howard Greenfield, And he was also a poet and lyricist. Both of them were part of the Brill Building's composers. After graduating from Abe Lincoln High School, Neil and some of his classmates formed a group called the Link Tones, later renamed the Tokens. In 1959, Neil struck gold with a song called Oh Carol that went to number 9 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts. In the 1960s, Neil had hits including Stairway to Heaven, You Mean Everything to Me, Run, Samson, Run, Little Devil, Happy Birthday, Sweet 16, Next Door to an Angel, and Breaking Up is Hard to Do, which went to number 1 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts on August 11th, 1962, for 2 weeks. And he later re recorded it to a slow jam back in 1975. And of course, Calendar Girl. Now, here's a black soul music experience FYI for you all, ladies and gentlemen. The song Calendar Girl was later used in a Purina Cat Chow commercial back in early 1976 and just renamed it Calendar Cat. In the 1970s, Neil Sedaka made another comeback, but no American record label. He met Elton John at a party in London in 1973, and Elton John signed Neil Sedaka to his record label called the Rocket Record Company Limited. Neil visited Elton John at his London apartment, and they discussed plans for relaunching Neil's career in the U.S. His song Laughter in the Rain went to number 1 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts on February 2nd, 1975, for 1 week. And Bad Blood went to number 1 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts on October 11th, 1975, for 3 weeks. As a songwriter, he penned hits for other artists, including Stupid Cupid for Connie Francis, Is This the Way to Amarillo for Tony Christie, Love Will Keep Us Together for the Captain and Tennille, which was nominated for a Grammy Award for Song of the Year at the 18th Annual Grammy Awards back in March of 1976. On television, he appeared on a few episodes, which includes The Carol Burnett Show on CBS, The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, also on CBS, and he was a guest host on the Midnight Special Late Night Friday Night on NBC, and he was a musical guest on NBC's Saturday Night Live performing his song Breaking Up is Hard to Do in a slow jam version. Neil Sedaka married Liba Strasberg in 1962. They have a daughter and son. Sedaka's nephew through his marriage to Strasberg is CNN politics writer Harry Etten. Neil Sedaka kept on performing, including a series of mini concerts on social media during the COVID-19 pandemic. And his last appearance was on February 25th, 2026, while dining at a local restaurant and had shown no signs of ill health. On the morning of February 27th, 2026, he was hospitalized in Los Angeles after experiencing a medical emergency and died on the same day after suffering from a heart disease and kidney failure. He was 86 years old. The next artist I'm about to introduce, and he was part of the Osmond family, and his name is Alan Ralph Osmond. He was born on June 22nd, 1949, in Ogden, Utah. He was the son of the late Olive May Osmond and the late George Osmond. He was the singer, musician, and producer, and he was the oldest of 7 brothers and sister who could sing. Starting in 1958, Allen and his three younger brothers, Wayne, Merrill, and Jay, began singing as a barbershop quartet. In 1962, the four Osmond brothers were cast on a 7-year period on The Andy Williams Show, a musical variety show aired on NBC. They also appeared in 9 episodes of the 1963 1964 Western television series called The Travels of Jamie McFeeters, which was aired on ABC, where Allen played the role of young Micah Kizel. During much of the Osmonds' career, Allen Bring, the oldest of the group, was the band's creative leader, playing piano and guitar and co-writing many of their songs, which Merrill co-producing most of their recordings and arranging the dance choreography. He seldom sang anything from more than the background vocals. In contrast to his younger brothers, he mostly stopped performing with the group after 2007 and what he professed to be his final performance with them, and that was October 13th, 2018, at the Neil Blastel area in Honolulu, Hawaii. Although Allen did appear for a get together with Jay, Wayne, and Merrill in 2019 as a per request for their sister Marie Osmond's 60th birthday. Allen began to experience dysfunction in his right hand during an Osmond Brothers concert in 1987. He later was diagnosed with progressive multiple sclerosis, or MS, which he publicly announced during the Jerry Lewis Labor Day MDA telethon in 1994. He was forced to retire from the road in late 1990s. Alan Osmond was married to Suzanne Pinegar when she was a cheerleader at Brigham Young's University on July 16, 1974. He and Suzanne had 8 sons, including entertainer David Osmond. Before he was married, he was dating one time Miss Karen Carpenter of the Carpenters. His last performance was writing a composition to celebrate the centennial anniversary of Orrin, Utah. In September 2024, he released his autobiography called One Way Ticket. Alan Osmond died in his home in Lethe, Utah on April 20th, 2026. He spent a week hospitalized in intensive care before returning home to receive hospice care 4 days before his death. He was 76 years old. The next artist I'm about to introduce, and yes, is another blue eyed soul artist. His name is Dennis Michael LeCourrier, and he was born in Jersey City, New Jersey. And he was the only child to teenage parents Ruth Mantovani LeCourrier and Lenny LeCourrier. And he was born on June 13th, 1939. Now, his parents, both of Italian descent, Dennis was raised by his grandparents, which includes Ralph and Angelina Montavani in Union City, New Jersey, when his mother was 19 when she gave birth to Dennis, and it was out of the picture until she got a little older. Dennis was a lead singer, guitarist, and co founder of the country soft rock pop group called Dr. Hook, formerly known as Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show. Known back then for as a novelty group, and then Dennis' biggest influence were the Beatles and Sam Cooke. In 1968, Dennis LeCourrier met the band The Chocolate Papers, who had moved to Union City, New Jersey from Alabama. The group, which includes Ray Sawyer, George Cummings, and Billy Francis, hired LeCourrier as a vocalist and bassist. By 1969, the band became Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, later shortened to Dr. Hook in 1975. LeCourrier was the primary lead vocalist and was bassist until 1972. In 1972, the group have signed and moved to Columbia CBS Records with their LP entitled Sloppy Seconds, which was released back in November 1972 with a song called The Cover of Rolling Stone. Now, that was a novelty song, and which was released in October 1972. The song went to number 6 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, and it went gold and it sold over 1 million copies in print. The LP, Sloppy Seconds, went to number 41 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts. The next LP was called Dr. Hook, and it was released back in May 1972. The song Sylvia's Mother was released back in March 1972, and it went to number 5 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts. The song went gold and it sold over 1 million copies in print. The LP went to number 45 on Billboard's Top LPs charts and tape charts. In 1975, the group switched over to Capitol Records and shortened its name to Dr. Hook. The group went from novelty songs to pop and blue eyed soul songs. In 1978, the group had a new LP called Pleasure and Pain, and Dennis LeCourrier was singing on lead, including 2 hits, Sharing the Night Together, and it was released in August 1978. The song went to number 6 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 50 on Billboard's Country Singles charts, and number 18 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts. The song was later a remake for Jamaican reggae artist Mr. Delroy Wilson. Their second hit, When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman. Yeah, I remember that song. That went to number 6 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 68 on Billboard's Country Singles charts, and number 5 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts. The song went gold and it sold over 1 million copies in print. In October 1979, the next LP was called Sometimes You Win, with their hit called Sexy Eyes. The song was released on January 28th, 1980, and it went to number 5 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 67 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts, and number 6 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts. The album went to number 71 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts. That will be their hit to crack the top 10. Dennis was also a songwriter whose songs have been recorded by Bob Dylan, Crystal Gayle, Donna Fargo, Olivia Newton-John, and Lou Rawls. Dennis' last tour as Dr. Hook took place between September 2021 to February 2022, and he announced on Thanksgiving 2025 that he would cease touring as Dr. Hook to enjoy his retirement. Dennis LeCourrier was married, first wife to Mary Ann, and they had a son, Jesse James. They were divorced after 18 years of marriage. Then he was married to a second wife, Susan, and they were later divorced in 2004. He was married to his third wife, Claire, after he moved to Worthing, West Sussex, England, and gained British citizenship, and remained there until he died on May 16th, 2026, from kidney disease. He was 76 years old. The next artist, another blue eyed soul artist, his name is Mr. Dave Mason. Dave Thomas Mason was born in Worcester, England on May 10th, 1946. He was the youngest of two children of Edward Mason and Nora Wilson, and they have ran a sweet shop. He became an infatuated with the electric guitar at an early age. His musical influences were Hank Marvin, Buddy Guy, and Elmore James. In his teens, he formed his own band called the Jaguars, which, with funding from his parents, they recorded the 1963 single called Opus the Spring. In 1964, Dave Mason joined another band called the Hellions, which later included drummer Jim Capaldi, and they also hired singer Tanya Day at the Star Club, where they stayed at the same time. They were in the same hotel with the Spencer Davis Group. Mason and Capaldi struck a friendship with keyboardist Steve Winwood. In 1967, the Spencer Davis Group broke up and Steve was available, and Capaldi and Dave Mason formed a new group called Traffic with their debut called Hole in My Shoe, which was released back in 1967. In 1970, Dave did some session work for other artists, which includes Jimi Hendrix, Cass Elliot, George Harrison, Derek and the Dominoes, which features Eric Clapton. Also, he did some session work with Paul McCartney and Wings, David Crosby, Graham Nash, Michael Jackson, the Rolling Stones, and Leon Russell. In 1973, yeah, I remember 1973. Y'all remember the show Don Kirshner's Rock Concert, which was aired in syndication back in the early 70s? Here in the NYC, it was aired Saturday night at 8 p.m. on WNEW TV Channel 5, Metro Media Television, now WNYW TV Fox Channel 5. And it was aired on prime time, and I got a chance to see Dave Mason performing. But I only saw like two hits, which includes Baby Please and The Lonely One. Those are the two songs that I got a chance to see him performed. Those two songs was from his new album called It's Like You Never Left, released on the Columbia CBS label. The LP was released on October 29th, 1973. His next LP was his self titled LP, Dave Mason, and it was released back in October 1974. He did a remake of Sam Cooke's Bring It On Home to Me. The LP went to number 25 on Billboard's Pop Albums charts. I didn't see Dave Mason again until November 1980. He appeared on an episode of Solid Gold, which was aired in syndication Saturday nights, and the host was Dionne Warwick. And he performed his Solid Gold classic, his top 10 hit called We Just Disagree, from his LP entitled Let It Blow. The LP was released back in April 1977. The song We Just Disagree went to number 12 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 19 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts. The LP went to number 37 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts, lasting for 49 weeks. And it went platinum, and it sold over 1 million copies in print. While he's not performing, Dave Mason did some charity work, and he had done a proponent of music education for children. In 2005, he became an official supporter of Music Will, a nonprofit organization that provides free musical instruments and lessons to children in U.S. public schools. In 2024, Dave Mason announced that he was canceling from all of his 2025 tour dates due to health challenges. Dave Mason lived in Southern California from 1969, and in 2017, he owned homes in Carson City, Nevada, and Hawaii. Sadly, Dave Mason died in his sleep at his home in Gardnerville, Nevada on April 19th, 2026, at the age of 79. He was predeceased by his son, who died in 2006. He was survived by his fourth wife, Winifred, and one daughter. So rest in peace to Mr. Dave Mason. The next artist that I'm sure you like is Joe Negri, better known as Joe the Handyman Negri. He was born on June 10th, 1926, in Pittsburgh, PA. He was a jazz guitarist, educator, and actor. At the age of 3, Joe began performing on radio, playing the ukulele and singing. He joined the local musicians union and began playing professional engagements. In the 1940s, he toured nationally and was a member of the Sheffield's and Rippling Rhythm Orchestra from 1943 until 1944, when he had served in the U.S. Army for 2 years. After returning home, he performed in Pittsburgh with his brother, pianist Bobby Negri. In the 1960s, he enrolled at Carnegie Mellon University, concentrated on music composition, spent the majority of his time playing locally around the Pittsburgh area, and often worked with pianist Johnny Costa on KDKA radio. Then in 1960, ABC's affiliate TV station, WTAE, hired him as its music director. Then in 1968, Joe began appearing as Joe the Handyman on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, aired on PBS. He was there from its inception in 1968 until the end of 2000, when Mr. Rogers decided to end the series. Joe Negri taught playing the guitar and later helped the Duquesne University establish a jazz guitar program for 46 years, as well as the University of Pittsburgh. In 2010, he recorded the album Fly Me to the Moon with Michael Feinstein and performed with him as well. During the following year at the Newport Jazz Festival, Joe Negri was the subject of a profile in the September 2010 issue of Vintage Guitar magazine, written by Rich Kenzie. Sadly, Joe Negri died in Scott Township, Pennsylvania on May 30th, 2026, at the age of 99, just 11 days before his 100th birthday. Now, we have some of today's hip hop artists, but you know the old saying, gone too soon. The artist that just passed away suddenly was Little Papa. Little Papa was born as Michael Wheeler on March 18th, 2000, in Jacksonville, Florida. In his youth, he was a member of Cut Circle, a popular local rap group in Jacksonville composed of older artists. He was featured in the group's most popular song, Lions, Tigers, and Bears, released in 2014. In 2019, Little Papa signed with Interscope Records. His debut album, Under Investigation 2, which includes his hit single called Eternal Living, featuring Polo G, along with Mose and Kneecap. In May of 2021, his studio album called Blessed, I Guess. The album was peaked at number 160 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts. The song Love and War went gold and it sold over 1,000 copies in print. In April of 2022, Little Papa signed with Yo Gotti's record label called Collective Music Group, an imprint of Interscope Records. His albums include Heavy is the Head, Half Man, Half Vamp, We Are Who We Are, and Almost Normal Again. Michael Wheeler had dated Toye Roberts. That's the daughter of rapper Rick Ross. They have one son. Little Papa was found dead in Fulton County, Georgia on February 18th, 2026, at the age of 25. The medical examiner concluded that Little Papa had died from a gunshot wound to the head after he crashed his car on the highway near Hatfield, Georgia. He was a young man, gone too soon. Now, before we go on, let's give a shout out to some of the other artists who did more than just singing and songwriting, but they also did TV themes as well. And the artist I'm about to introduce is Mr. Sonny Curtis. Sonny Curtis was born in Meadow, Texas on May 9th, 1937. His parents were farmers, and Sonny was their sixth and last child. His roots were bluegrass music, and he learned to play the guitar at a young age from his uncles, which include Smokey, Herb, and Ed Mayfield, who had their own bluegrass band, the Mayfield Brothers. As a guitarist, he played on some of Buddy Holly's earlier hits during the 1956 Decca sessions, including the song he wrote, Rock Around with Ali V. Although he had gone on the road with other musicians by the time Buddy Holly put together the Crickets. In 1957, Sonny Curtis joined the Crickets. Then in late 1958, shortly before Buddy Holly's death. In 1959, he took over as lead vocal and addition to lead guitar. The Crickets' post Holly recordings were put on hold after Buddy Holly's death, and Sonny was drafted in late 1959. In that same year, he and Jerry Allison wrote a song called Walk Right Back for the Everly Brothers. It became a Billboard Top 10 hit. In 1960, the Crickets LP In Style with the Crickets was finally released, including the original versions of Sonny's original songs, which includes I Fought the Law, which later became a hit for the Bobby Fuller 4 in 1966, and More Than I Can Say, which later became a hit for Bobby V and a hit for Leo Sayer. Oh, I didn't know. I thought More Than I Can Say was written by Leo Sayer in 1980. That I didn't know. And I didn't know that that was a song that was a remake. So Leo Sayer's version of More Than I Can Say went to number 2 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts on December 27th, 1980. But Sonny Curtis will be best remembered for writing the theme song from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Love is all around, don't need to waste it. You're gonna make it after all. I'm sure we all know the theme song, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, which was aired on CBS from 1970 to 1977. And yes, that later became a remake for Husker Du in 1985 and Joan Jett in 1996. In 2012, Sonny was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the Crickets. Buddy Holly was inducted back in 1986. On February 6, 2016, Sonny performed at the Crickets' farewell concert at the Surf Lake Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa. Sonny was married to Louise Halverson in 1970. The couple had a daughter, Sarah, and lived on a Tennessee cattle. Sonny Curtis died from pneumonia at a hospital in Nashville, Tennessee on September 19th, 2025. He was 88 years old. Another artist that we didn't know about, he too did a theme song, and his name is Steve Carlisle. He's best remembered for singing the theme song from TV's WKRP in Cincinnati, which was aired on CBS from 1978 to 1982. You know the cast. You had Gary Sandy, who played the program director, Gordon Jump, who played the vice president and general manager, the late Lonnie Anderson, who played the secretary, which got all the ratings. It also had Frank Bonham, who played the sales representative, Richard Sanders, who played the newsman, Les Nussbaum, Jan Smithers, who played the wannabe, and of course, Tim Reed, who played Venus Flytrap, and the late Howard Hessman, who played Dr. Johnny Fever. Now, we all know about the short version, but what about the long version? Yes, Steve Carlisle recorded the longer version, which was 3 minutes. Sadly, the song is not available on iTunes. You're going to have to check it out on YouTube. Now, Steve Carlisle sings WKRP in Cincinnati, and it was released on the MCA Universal label. The song peaked at number 65 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts back in November 1981 and number 29 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts back in January 1982. Steve Carlisle died on December of 2025. Now, if y'all remember the song, the opening, it goes like this. Baby, if you ever wonder ever become of me. I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP. Got kinda packing and kinda unpacking. Town to town, up and down the dial. Maybe you'll never be meant to be. Just maybe think of me once in a while. I'm in WKRP in Cincinnati. So that was the TV version. So you want to check out the long version, go to YouTube and just type in Steve Carlisle, WKRP in Cincinnati, the long version. Another member that just passed away, his name is Fred Alexander Jr. He was a musician and co founder of the group Lakeside, where he played the drums from its inception until he passed away on June 15th, 2026. Another artist that had passed away, but he was also a radio DJ personality, but it was on cable radio. And his name is Lord Sear. And yes, he was born back in 1973. He was a hip hop rapper and radio host on Sirius XM Radio. Lord Sear established a legacy of himself tracking back his involvement with the group called Curious, that spells with a Kurious. In the 1990s, with the underground hip hop radio show, the Stretch Armstrong and Bobito show, which was aired on Sirius XM radio. And he also toured the world with other artists, including Eminem with his Anger Management Tour, which ran during the early 2000s. And he was on the radio on Shade 45 Sirius XM radio in the afternoon from noon to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Lord Sear died at the age of 52. And let's give another shout out to some of another female DJ mixer that has gone away too soon. And her name is DJ Lady Shalez. She was born as Michelle Melendez in the Ridgewood section of Queens, New York, back in 1984. That's where she was born. She elevated the sound and brought everyone to the dance floor. Graduating from Hunter College in New York City, her career spanned more than 20 years in the music industry, working at various radio stations and music streaming services with a focus in hip hop. She never took a shortcut to the top, putting in work answering phones at Power 105.1 FM in New York City before becoming the producer and board operator for the Ed Lover Morning Show, while also flexing her roles as a DJ and as a music producer. She worked with artists includes Nina Sky, Q-Tip, Bodega Bams, and more. Sadly, DJ Lady Shalez was killed in a car crash on April 23rd of 2026. She was 41 years old. Now, we have another performer. Yes, her name is Connie Francis. Now, let me tell you, she sung in different genres. I'm going to tell you about that in a few minutes. Miss Connie Francis was born in Newark, New Jersey on December 12th, 1937. She was a singer and actress. She was the first woman to reach #1 on Billboard's Hot 100 pop singles hits, which includes Everybody's Somebody's Fool, released on June 27th, 1960 for 2 weeks. My Heart Has a Mind of Its Own, #1 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts on September 26, 1960 for 2 weeks. And Don't Break the Heart That Loves You. That was #1. And it was on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts on March 21st, 1962 for 1 week. She had other she had other hits, including Who's Sorry Now, Stupid Cupid, which was written by Neil Sedaka, Where the Boys Are, Lipstick on Your Collar, and just to name a few. Now, here's an FYI for you all, ladies and gentlemen. Connie Francis has sung genres of music, which includes pop, rock and roll, country, and jazz. As an actress, she had appeared in 3 movies for MGM, including Follow the Boys, Looking for Love, and When the Boys Meet the Girls. Sadly, on November 4th, 1974, while in town to perform at the Westbury Music Fair, she was raped at knife point, beaten and tied to a chair at the Jericho Turnpike's Howard Johnson's Lodge in Jericho, Long Island, New York. Francis was found by the police naked, bound, and gagged. She said that the attacker was drugged and kept asking for money. The 19-year-old was a guest and was arrested, but the rapist was never found. Connie sued the motel chain for failing to provide security and won a $2.5 million lawsuit. She went into depression by taking 50 Darvan pills a day, and sometimes she never leaves the house. On that same year, she went for nasal surgery for an unable throat and everything. And she was unable to sing again until 1981. In 1989, Connie resumed performing, but at smaller gigs. She retired in 2018 and had moved to Florida. In mid 2025, Connie Francis was hospitalized in Florida for extreme pain related to hip injury and shared updates on social media before her death. Connie Francis died on July 16th, 2025, at a hospital in Pompano Beach, Florida, at the age of 87. Now, here's another musician that just passed away before I was just getting ready to record this episode. His name is Walter Parazeta, and he was born in Maywood, Illinois on March 14th, 1945. He played the saxophone, flute, and clarinet and was the founding member of the pop, soft rock, jazz, blue eyed soul disco group Chicago, back then known as the Chicago Transit Authority. He began playing the clarinet at the age of 9. As a teenager, his growing talent was being groomed for a career as a professional musician and earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in classical clarinet performance from DePaul University. He along with James Pankow on trombone, Lee Lugain on trumpet, Robert Lamb on keyboard and vocals, and Peter Cetera on bass and vocals. They were known back then as the Big Thing, then changed it to Chicago Transit Authority in 1969, and then changed to shorten it to Chicago in 1970. Walter had played the flute on the song called Color My World with the late Terry Kath singing on lead. And that was from the LP entitled Chicago, released on the Columbia CBS label back in the summer of 1970. The song became a slow jam song at high school proms in the 70s. Walter also played on saxophone for the song Just You and Me from the LP entitled Chicago 6, released on the Columbia CBS label. The song was released back on September 7th, 1973, and the LP was released on June 25th, 1973. And the song went to number 4 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 7 on Billboard's Easy Listening Singles charts. The song went gold and it sold over 1 million copies in print. Walter continued performing until he retired in 2017 due to a heart condition. Walter was married to Jacqueline Bryce Goody in 1966. They have 2 daughters. In April 2021, Walter announced that he has Alzheimer's disease. He died on June 17th, 2026, and he was 81 years old. Another young performer that went away too soon, his name was Tay Keith. He was a record producer for Travis Scott, Drake, Eminem, and Sexy Red. And he was born on September 20th, 1996. Now, Tay Keith was nominated for a Grammy for Best Rap Song, and he wrote the song called Sicko Mode for rap artist Travis Scott at the 2019 61st Annual Grammy Awards. Tay Keith was born and raised in South Memphis, Tennessee. On June 18th, 2026, he was found dead at his Nashville home after police found it a welfare check. There were no signs of foul play. He was 29 years old. And last but not least, this just came in before we was just getting ready to record this episode. Mr. Bo Williams. Yep. Bo Williams was back then an R&B singer, then later switched gears to gospel singer. And he was born on January 6, 1950 in Houston, Texas. Bo was the son of a Baptist preacher and choir director. He began performing as a teenager, appearing on a live show under the name Bobo Mr. Soul. He gained national attention in 1984 by competing on the TV talent show Star Search, where he defeated the reigning champion Sam Harris. In the early 80s, he recorded R&B for Capitol Records, which includes Bo Williams, Stay With Me, Bodacious, and No More Tears. In the late 80s, he transitioned to gospel music and signed to Light Records. His 1989 gospel LP, Wonderful, went to number 2 on Billboard's gospel albums charts and stayed in the top 10 for 58 weeks. The LP won him a Dove Award for Song of the Year. And during the years, he was nominated for a Grammy, Stella, and the James Cleveland Award. Bo was an ordained minister and operates Bo Williams Ministries. His other gospel LPs, which include The Best of Bo Williams, They Need to Know, The Greatest Gift, Visions, and his 2019 single, God Kept Me. Sadly, Bo Williams died of cancer on June 17th, 2026. He was 50 years old. So there you have it, folks. This was part 3 of tributes honoring our singers and musicians. And let's not leave out producers and, yes, recording executives, Mr. Clive Davis, that have passed away during the 2025-2026 season. Now, I want to say thank you all for tuning in to the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. It's been a long time coming. We got off to a slow start back in October 2021. At first, we did music and talking for the first 2 seasons, but then Spotify found out that I was playing a lot of music and not all the talking. So, season 3, we got a chance to interview some of my CBS co-workers, including those who have worked at News Radio 880 and one that I worked in the photo department back then was a singer, and also some of my Truman classmates who were also DJs, as well as my family relatives on my late father's side of the family and one on my late mother's side of the family. And yes, we had to do it audio for season 3. Now in season 4, since 2024 during the summer, everything has changed. We went from audio to video. So last season, I did it in my kitchen. Now, season 5, I'm doing it right here in my living room. Like so many other podcast shows, do it right on their sofa or sofa couch. So I want to say thank you all for tuning in to the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. We are finishing up season number 5. The numbers have been increasing. And right now, as we speak, we're up to 226 subscribers on YouTube. And we want to say thank you all for tuning in. Back then, I had it private, and a special shout out to those that I met on Alignable, those that I have interviewed on Alignable and LinkedIn, And yes, for those who had helped me out branching out this podcast to other links. So, for those of you who wanted to check out my Black Soul Music Experience podcast episodes, but had a hard time getting onto the link, now I have it open to the public and make it easier for everyone, including people like you. So please continue to check out my podcast all this summer. And if any music artists that have passed away during the summer, I will be blogging it on my new website. Please visit my website at the Black Soul Music Experience podcast.com. There you will find upcoming events and for breaking music news. And it's on WordPress. So make sure you check out my website, the Black Soul Music Experience podcast.com. And ladies and gentlemen, please download all of the artists that have passed away for the past 3 parts of this podcast. Please download all of the artists that we have talked about on this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Visit iTunes.com, Spotify.com, or purchase a CD at Amazon.com. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know more about my podcast, please visit my website at the Black Soul Music Experience podcast.com for breaking music news and upcoming events. That's the Black Soul Music Experience podcast.com. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out this episode, please subscribe to the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Look for me on these 5 platforms. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Pocket Cast. All you need to do is go to your smartphones and make sure you type in the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. You can look for me on those 5 platforms or wherever you get your podcast. And if you have a hard time getting on to the link, riverside.fm, please become a member and subscribe to patreon.com. If you have a computer, make sure you have your email address, put in your password, and make sure you go to the Patreon homepage where you see all of the Patreon shows done by different creators. And make sure you go to the search box and type in the name of my podcast, the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast 6. Put down the number 6. And please check out all of my audio and video podcast episodes and video podcast clips that you may have missed. And if you have a hard time getting on the Patreon, then please look for this episode on YouTube. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience. And if you have a hard time subscribing on to my channel, please go to the YouTube homepage, go to youtube.com. All you need to do is go to the YouTube homepage where you see all of the other shows, all the other podcast shows, and other programs as well. All you need to do is go to the search box and make sure you type in the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Don't forget to click the magnifying glass and make sure you look for my picture. I'm wearing a tuxedo. And please click the subscribe button so you can check out all of my video podcast episodes from season 4 and season 5. And if you like the episode, if you love my podcast, please subscribe, please support, please give me a thumbs up, please leave a comment, and please pass it on. Thank you for joining me as I close out this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. We have closed out season number 5, and I want to wish you all a safe and happy summer. Well, that's about it for this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. I'm Sam Wilson Jr. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be back on Tuesday, August 25th for season number 6. The Black Soul Music Experience podcast is sponsored by the support of listeners and viewers like you. If you want to know more about my podcast, please visit my website at the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast.com. And if you enjoyed my podcast, please subscribe to the Black Soul Music Experience podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Pocket Cast. And please check out my audio and video podcast episodes by becoming a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast 6. And don't forget to check out my video podcast episodes by subscribing to my YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience or go to the YouTube homepage and type in the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. You can also leave your feedbacks, comments, and replies by going to my Facebook homepage. Go to facebook.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. You can also tweet me on X, aka Twitter, at Sam Wilson Jr. 66. Follow me on Instagram at SAMM.Y2980. And follow me on Blue Sky at Sam Wilson Jr. 66.bsky.social. As always, partying, remember this: reach for the top and your dreams will come true, and it can happen to you. From all of us, take care, God bless, thanks for listening, and have a safe and happy summer.